Alright, welcome back to Backyard Installers. We are now on to, I don't know which video this is, too many of them for this. We are now working on the actual mold. What has transpired since the last time is we've decided to do the top layer, the finish layer, the finish layer that's going to be on here, that would end up, being this, would look something like this, is going to be in carbon fiber. And so to be able to do that, we have to now make a master of this piece. And that means that every detail has to be 100% perfect, or we're just, screwed up altogether. What I'm doing now is that I'm working on the components that we had that we mounted in here, and on all the details on the corners right now. Up here at the top, there originally were tabs, which you can see right here, that are no longer. But I'm actually going to put them back in because I need them. I didn't realize one of the attachment points, this is actually for the back of the armrest. And so I'm going to have to put that detail back in, and I'll have to show. But here you can see all the detail that has to be here in the flat areas. And then you can also see sort of right here, there's a gap right here. And that gap has to be filled. This can't be like this. One of the other details that we have to do is the edge right here has to be exactly the same height so that I can get the panel to fit into the piece. And what it is that in the panel there's like a tongue and groove type of configuration here going on, where I've got one panel does one thing and then this panel does another, and you have little points where they actually will slide into the panel. The beauty is that in this one here, you can see I cut all the tabs off actually that were holding this original plastic component on. What I've discovered is that I don't have to do that. It actually will fit. The bucket that I have fits perfect inside of here without any modifications. I'll show you that on the other door in just a second. What we're going to do is, I'll just move back to what I was originally talking about. So back to the detail work. The detail work we have to get all squared away. And again, here this is a little easier to see because the shadows, the differences in lights and stuff. We have to get the tabs. We have these little tabs here. Those have to be made to show up on this, because what we'll end up doing is we're going to vacuum bag this down. To make the actual master mold and stuff, we're going to have a piece of wood. And I'll use this table as kind of like as a master here. You can see here that the panel is sitting on the table flat here, and it also sits around here. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to take a piece of wood, be about yay wide like this, all the way around the perimeter, go all the way around up, and the same thing up here in the top. That'll actually be where when it's upside down like this, and we put the glass in and stuff, this is actually where the vacuum bag sealing area will be. Instead of trying to vacuum bag all the way to the back side and stuff like that, I'm just going to do the top. So just the bag will pull down here and stuff like that. Also, to make this strong enough, because it's pretty, right now it's a pretty, not thin, but it's flexible, I'm going to put a series of ribs across up right in this area. We're going to add a series of ribs in here, and these ribs are going to help us keep this panel from warping during the vacuum pull. And the same thing with the edges over here. I'll probably put a series, I'll either bring the ridges out and then attach them down to the wood plates here on the fronts and the backs or something, so that the tab won't want to, literally this whole area won't want to go. And then maybe a series of ribs right here again, the idea is to keep this area as straight as possible under the vacuum bag pull. Here I've gone ahead and left over some of the glass. It's really thick, right here. I mean, this is not going to bend in this area here because it goes down and then back up in a V. So this area right here is really strong. I'm not really worried about that. But I do have to fill it, in terms of when I go to pull the vacuum on it, because no area can be exposed. None of this area can be open during that pull, or otherwise we end up getting a defective line. But I'll go to this a little later. The next, I'm going to show you out here on the car so you can get a better understanding of what's going on. I showed you in one of the very first videos and stuff about the bucket. And so here we've got this is my dummy panel that I'm using and stuff like that. And as you can see, we've cut out all the steel in this area. And it's, so we have it, gone for working. And as you can see here, you see these little tab holes right here, here, and here, you know, these little tabs, this is actually for holding the panel on to the back side, screwing it up. And I want to actually keep these intact because it just makes it easier to mount this, because again, this whole panel is supposed to go on like a factory overlay is the idea, so that when I go to put this, you know, put this panel on, it snaps in, and then I'll have a hole, you know, in this area here where it'll actually bolt. You know, I'll have a whole tab thing here and stuff like that, and it'll actually bolt right in here. And then you've got the one screw here, and then as long as you have all the other screws in place, this is going to be a rock solid object. This is never ever going to move on us. Also, what I'm probably going to do here is that the bucket, which is kind of, you know, for you to look at right now, it's kind of hard to imagine exactly what I'm going to do here, but basically in a nutshell, the bucket's going to be trimmed down in the end, not right now, but in the end it'll be trimmed down, and most likely it'll only be trimmed in this area. These areas and stuff like that, there might be some minor angle, you know, cutting right here and stuff to make it fit, so because the panel turns in right here. We'll do some minor cutting here and stuff to trim it and make it fit. But this will all be glass to this upper panel. But the idea, as you can see, you know, why I've got this in here like this is so that it can be inserted from the front side and then screwed in. And then what I'll end up doing is I'll end up, you know, putting the panel on like a normal panel. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not trying to make this thing complex or difficult. You know, it is difficult to do this. This is not, you know, your Sunday weekend type thing, because I'm making it more complex than it has to be. Like I said before, most people want to just simply throw a bunch of glass on here. Mine is that I want to make it very lightweight, and so everything is by its structure. You know, this is no more than a, you know, maybe a 1/16 of an inch thick, but it's strong, you know, in terms of strength because of its shape itself. Now the rest of this structure, which you have to kind of envision here, we're going to be cutting out all this plastic right here. This will be all gone, but I'm going to leave this ledge here and this ledge here. The reason for that is I'm going to create a flat area right here. And this flat area is going to be a fake. It's to make it so it looks like a pocket, because you have to, again, you have to kind of envision this. The piece goes up here like this, and it fits up in here in this corner. And so it originally had this like little divot right here, and then it went across, and this is a bucket, you know, the whole bucket. Well, I don't want to get rid of this line right here in the, you know, that's across here, because if I do that, then it won't look very good. And so I'm going to create a lower shelf, because the actual piece goes up just slightly above this, about right in this neighborhood. And so we'll have this like little shelf right here, and that little shelf will give us, when we're looking down at it like this, it'll look almost like that there's a bucket right here, because it'll have a shadow line and stuff, and it'll look really wonderful. It'll look factory, let's put it that way. Here in the back and stuff, I'm kind of throwing up the idea of putting another box right here. Right now, currently, my volume is about 1/4 cubic foot, based off some basic, you know, calculation stuff, and assuming a few things. But I might be able to get more room back here. I haven't explored the idea, but it would be a very simple thing to do. Now, one of the things about this build is I'm doing something, and I'm going to walk back inside, I'm doing something completely different than normal. The materials that I'm going to use are right here. And what they are is circuit board material. Basically, it's circuit board fiberglass. And this is going to be the back, you know, the back wall, you know, piece, you know, of the bucket. And so you have the, you know, this bucket here, and you can see that I'll be able to bond, I'll be able to bond this right in there. You know, remember, it's going to be like this, not flat right here. But this back wall piece right here, it's going to be perfectly flat. Now I'm going to make this a little thicker than this is right now. This is, again, this is about maybe a millimeter, 2 millimeters thick right now. I'm going to laminate two pieces together and make this a thicker wall. This allows me a perfectly flat surface on the back side, instead of it being this, you know, wavy fiberglass piece and stuff like that. It's pre-made and everything. It's simple for me to use, and then all I have to do is cut out the shape that I would like it to end up being, so that it will fit inside. Also, the thing is that I can take the material and I can turn it right up, and I can literally just make walls, you know, just literally right angles and stuff like that, and I will end up with a piece like I'm building an enclosure. Think of it as like I'm building a wooden enclosure, but I'm actually making it out of fiberglass, and then I will simply simply bond all this together using resins and a little bit of glass in the corners and stuff like that, and I'll end up with an insanely strong enclosure in the end. And I'll have bracing going on in between it and stuff. And again, like I said, I could do a back bucket, and the beauty would be is on the back bucket here, so I could simply put a hole right here. I don't have to make it the full size. I can actually just make it like a 4-inch hole and a square bucket on the back side that fits into the door. So, but anyway, that's what I'm doing right now, and I will get more on to when I get the other paneling, when we start getting all the ribs and everything built. So until then, I'll see you guys later.